Everyone was waiting on the farm for the great event. The birth of Mom's Paw's chicks. He had been nursing them for days, and they could come at any moment. On the hottest day of the summer, Mom Paw heard suddenly quack, quack, and watched as they rose as one by one began to break the shell. Well, all but one. That's a turkey egg, he said an old paw to Mom's paw. Never mind, I'll give it a little more heat to get you out. But when it finally came out, turned out to be a totally different duck to the rest. It was big and ugly, and it did not look like a turkey. The rest of the animals in the corral soon noticed his appearance and began to laugh at him. Ugly, ugly, you're very ugly. His mother defended him, but after a while he did not know what to say. The ducks pecked him, the turkeys chased him, and the chickens mocked him. In the end, her own mother became convinced that he was an ugly duck. Go away, I do not want you here. The poor little duck felt very sad to hear those words and ran away from there at the rejection of all. He ended up in a swamp where he met two wild geese who, despite their ugliness, wanted to be his friends, but one day hunters appeared and suddenly ended up with them. In fact, the duckling was about to run the same fate if it was not because the dogs saw him and decided not to bite him. I'm so ugly that even dogs do not bite me, thought the poor duckling. He continued his journey and ended up in the house of an elderly woman who lived with a cat and a hen. But since he was not able to lay eggs, he had to leave that place as well. The poor man felt he was worthless. An autumn sunset was staring up at the sky as he gazed upon a flock of large birds that left him with his mouth open. He did not know, but they were not birds, but swans. How great they are! And what white ones! Their feathers look like snow. He wished with all his might to be one of them, but he opened his eyes and realized that he was still an ugly beast. After autumn, the cold winter arrived and the duckling passed many calamities. One very cold day he got into the pond and froze. Thanks to the fact that a peasant passed by, broke the cold ice and took it home, the duckling was still alive. When he was there, he saw that children were approaching him and believed that they were going to hurt him for being such an ugly duck, so he became frightened and caused a terrible stir until he managed to escape. The rest of the winter was hard for the poor duckling. Only, died of cold and often starved too. But in spite of everything managed to survive, and finally came the spring. One afternoon when the sun began to warm up, he decided to go to the park to see the flowers, which began to fill everything. There he saw in the pond two of those large, white and majestic birds he had once seen. He looked at them again, but this time he had the courage to approach them. He flew to where they were, and then something caught his attention in his reflection. Where was the image of the big, ugly duck that it was? In its place was a swan. So that meant that she had become a swan. Or rather, it had always been. Since that day the duck had all the happiness that until then life had denied, and although he heard many praises praising his beauty, he never got used to it.